Hello again. This is the second recording in which we're going to focus on this essay from the point of view of its construction as an opinion essay. Remember that we already removed the most obvious surface mistakes in terms of syntax and lexis. Now I would like to assess this essay as an opinion essay in terms of the use the writer has made of the most important components. Let me first of all show you some comments that I inserted before so as to speed up the process. And the first comment that I would like to make here is what do you think about the title, The Eradication of Violence and Discrimination? I don't know what you think about it, but in my opinion it's a bit misleading as a title because it creates the false illusion that the essay is going to be about such eradication or about the ways in which we're going to eradicate violence and discrimination. So think of a better alternative, one that adjusts itself more strictly to, that adapts itself more strictly, let's say, or responds more directly to the instructions given. In the fully edited version of the essay, I have provided my own replacement. The second sentence begins, and it might be true, since aggressive action between human beings throughout history never had any positive result at all. All right. The use of the modal might, I wrote in my comment here, weakens the argument. Right, because might is used for a sort of tentative statements. If you're saying it might be true, you're almost doubting that it is true, when what you want in an opinion essay is to sound emphatic, to sound assertive, to show your position very clearly. So we might say something like, and this would be an opportunity to use the personal pronoun I could not agree more with the author, right? It is not the best way, but it's just one possibility. But you see my point, right? Okay, then here about the thesis, I didn't insert the comment actually, but I want you to notice that the writer of the essay is responding directly to the instructions given. The instructions had to do with explaining or discussing to what extent these two movies, The Hunger Games and My Name is Ken, confirm, right? Confirm or contradict the statement quoted above. So the student is responded specifically to these instructions. This idea before is confirmed by the movies, which clearly reflect two violent societies full of hate and discrimination, right? So from that point of view, it's a good thesis. Okay, let's examine the next paragraph, which is the first body paragraph, one that begins, opponents to this view claim, blah, blah, blah. Let's see what I wrote in my comment. It says, this counter-argument is self-defeating, which means that in itself, it refers to a negative idea that is very easily refuted. So there's no need for you to refute it because actually the counter-argument is self-defeating, which means it's not an effective counter-argument. Why not? Because you must make an effort to think of the opposition's strongest argument. Strongest. I want to insist on this word. Not one that is easily refuted. History itself has already refuted Hitler's arguments, so why bother to use this as a counter-argument? You actually should think of a better example. But, for example, you should think of an example in which the goal, right, that you say here, when you mention the goal, which, by the way, is not explained here, is a good or apparently just cause, right? Because if not, it will not help you as a counter-argument. Okay, so if instead of this we had said in order to achieve the goal of uniting an entire nation, that may improve it. We're still, we're giving Hitler some credit, at least he had supposedly some kind of good goal of uniting an entire nation, and that's why he did what he did. Okay, my recommendation then is make the effort. Don't write down the first counter-argument that crosses your mind. Stop to think about the possible positions that, the possible arguments that the opposition might have, and choose their strongest argument, and then choose how to destroy that argument. If you're going to settle for a very easy one, well, the argumentation is not going to be very effective, or else the reader might have the impression that you haven't gone too far thinking about the problem, all kinds of different things. All right, so we have fixed it somehow, but don't forget that next time you should apply this principle. Let's see what happens. So as you can see, the student is following one of the templates that we discuss in our materials, right, that you read about, which is the clustering pattern, in which the first body paragraph, since there is no background paragraph here, the first body paragraph introduces the counter-argument, which is then, of course, refuted. Okay, so according to this logic, or according to this template, the next two paragraphs should be confirmation paragraphs, which present the student's arguments to defend his or her point of view. Let's see the first one. Violence is believed to be a tool for many individuals to control others. Well, actually here what we have is, notice that in my comment I said this sentence sounds like a counter-argument. You know, when you don't want to express, or when you want to refer to what somebody else thinks, you may use this sort of impersonal passive construction. Violence is believed to be, by some, not by me. You know, it's a misleading beginning because it creates the impression that this is going to introduce a counter-argument. So I have three objections here. First of all, if this is a counter-argument, then it should be immediately refuted and through proper signposting language that indicates where goes the counter-argument, where the refutation begins, etc. Clearly this paragraph doesn't do that. Then the next paragraph, if this is a counter-argument, if you meant it to be a counter-argument, then the next paragraph and the next and the next, all of them should begin in the same way, should follow then the alternating pattern. And clearly in this second paragraph, besides eradicating violence in society, we also need to eliminate discrimination. Clearly this is not a counter-argument. So actually the student is following the template in which the counter-argument is in the initial paragraph and is then refuted, and the next body paragraphs are just confirmation arguments. Therefore, do not present this argument in the form of a counter-argument or with language that creates the illusion it is a counter-argument. And the third objection I had is that, well, it says here the sentence sounds like the topic sentence of the previous paragraph. Notice, opponents to this view claim that resorting to the use of violence is necessary. Well, then we improved it, but we were basically saying the same thing. So in this case, because it is a topic sentence that controls, let's say, the ideas that you develop in the paragraph, you should write perhaps a different topic sentence that is more closely related to the text, to the film in this case, that you're going to examine, which is the Hunger Games. For example, we could say something like this. Let's remove the comment first. The manipulative use of violence to subdue the masses and let me change this. The manipulative use of violence to subdue the masses and increase power should be uprooted. Well, something like this, just to give the two topic sentences some parallelism. In this way, the topic sentence that you have here matches the topic sentence that you have in the next paragraph, because the two are confirmation paragraphs, so they should be parallel in terms of their construction. Begin with arguments and expressed in a more or less parallel way. Okay. In the other confirmation paragraph, we find this sentence that about which I made this remark. Discrimination acts against certain groups based on unfair stereotypes created by the media lead to violent hate crimes. And then, of course, the explanation how my name is Ken confirms this idea. But created by the media, I just thought that in this essay it is a bit too restrictive, because it's not just the stereotypes created by the media. Besides, the example that you give is not really an illustration of how the media are to blame, right? So that's why I thought that perhaps we should just remove this phrase, created by the media. Okay? Alright, well, this is it. So from the point of view of construction, as you can see, there are a few adjustments that are necessary. Let me just show you now some general feedback I provided before actually starting the recording about, first of all, about the content. So, for example, here, the writer demonstrates, sorry, I think it's incomplete. The writer demonstrates knowledge of the course materials and films. Actually, this is quite clear. The student has been referring to different topics and subtopics discussed in the materials that you have to study, and also good knowledge of the films, of the two films which were part of the thesis statement. The essay responds in a satisfactory manner to the exam prompt given, which is something I analyzed when I discussed the thesis, so it's not off the topic or anything like that. The examples have been well chosen, right? So the content is good. What about organization and generic conventions? Well, in this case there are some flaws, as we just discussed, such as an ambiguous title and ineffective choice of counter-argument, and a lack of parallelism in the way the confirmation paragraphs begin. Exactly what I discussed before. On the positive side, the essay refers to and explains the quotation given, which is a plus. The thesis statement clearly presents the writer's opinion, and the examples from the films used as supporting evidence are well chosen. Okay? Finally then, in terms of language use, well, there are two main areas of improvement in the editing process: strategies to avoid the repetition of lexical items, and to remove some elementary mistakes, such as, well, just a few examples: double negatives, inconsistent use of tenses, and incorrect punctuation or relative clauses. So as you can see, a very good job actually. Only some improvements are necessary. You will be able to download a fully edited version of this essay from the next page or the next slide on the Genially presentation, so go back to it. Thank you very much.